shirts and dark trousers carrying briefcases, women in blue jeans and women in glittering saris, children in polished shoes and no shoes at all. It was overwhelming. The crippled beggars repulsed and terrified him, and he'd hurried past them with his suitcase, praying they would not reach out and catch hold of his ankle or the hem of his shorts. On top of everything, there'd been the heat. But he was here now, and though there'd been clamour and hustle as he'd made his way through the town, it seemed to him like a gentler version of everything he'd encountered down on the plains, and best of all, he was no longer sweating. In the cool of the evening, he walked through the small square rooms of the little bungalow, a sitting room with a fireplace and a neat round table, in the corner a green fridge, a veranda-like room closed in with windows, containing a desk and a huge extraordinary chair like a dentist's, a bedroom with a three-quarter bed and an embroidered placard on the wall above it which said, "I will be your shield, your high tower, the horn of your salvation," a bathroom with a toilet and another sink, and a big pink plastic bucket like a dustbin, a kitchen with a blue propane bottle and a two-burner stove, another sink, and shelves lined with clean newspaper. "Ideal Pigeon," it said in black script on the front of the stove's white enamel. "Well, isn't this nice?" he said aloud. He boiled the eggs and made himself a cup of tea. He unpacked his things and stowed his suitcase under the bed. He walked through all the rooms again, closing the open windows and drawing all the curtains. It was hard to imagine anything more cosy and snug. In the kitchen, he put a pan of water on to boil, then two more, until there was enough hot water in the pink bucket in his bathroom for him to stand in it and wash himself. There was still a crust of salt around his middle from the sweat which had collected there in the heat of the morning, and dried when the train reached the cool air of the mountains. It gave him such pleasure to see it dissolve and disappear beneath his wet sponge. And then there was the novelty of putting on his pyjamas, which he hadn't worn since leaving home. It was late when he noticed the other man's clothes, hanging limply from a forked hook on the back of the bedroom door. The door was open against the wall, and, when he closed it, there they were, a red and blue plaid shirt and a pair of dark, many-pocketed trousers, a hat with ear flaps, and a pom-pom. It amazed him what he felt when he saw them, how much he would have preferred it if they weren't there, how much, in the few short hours since he'd arrived, he'd come to think of the place as his own. He pushed the door back against the wall so that the clothes of the absent missionary were, as they'd been before, out of sight. On his pillow, a hot water bottle lay in a woolen cover, and he thought about boiling another pan to fill it, but he was so very tired now, and, instead, he climbed into the three-quarter bed and let his head sink into the cool pillow. For a little while he read, but soon his eyes began to close, and his last thought before he slept was how lucky it was that he and the Padre had boarded the same carriage at Metupalayam, how lucky that they'd fallen into conversation after his joyous "thank God," when, halfway up, the air had cooled. What a stroke of good fortune it was that this little bungalow was lying here in this pretty, if slightly neglected and overgrown garden, empty and available. Chapter 2. At the railway terminus, the Padre had parted with Mr. Hilary Byrd, and they had gone their separate ways, Mr. Byrd to modern stores to buy his supplies, the Padre to the presbytery to prepare the bungalow for his arrival. When he had beaten the rugs and put a quilt and a hot water bottle on the bed and pegs on the wire washing line outside, when he had put fresh newspaper on the kitchen shelves and dry sticks in the grate and a bag of milk in the small green fridge in the sitting room, the Padre sat down on the stone steps outside and told the dog, Ooty, that they were expecting a visitor. The dog's ears twitched. At the edge of the garden, the leaves of the eucalyptus trees waved about in the breeze, and a light rain began to fall. It fell on the Padre's head, and on the dog lying in the old kitchen sink. A shallow, rust-coloured lake began to form around her, but she didn't seem to mind. She stayed where she was, her long throat resting on the sink's lip, her dark, liquid eyes looking out across the garden, past the hydrangea bush and the banana tree and the Dorothy Perkins rose towards the